Right, this talk is on optimizing your operations, but in particular optimizing your sales operations. Now, at the very start this morning, we spoke about having a good plan in place, and we started off by saying that you need, the financials, market, and customer, a particular focus on those. And we said that you need, at a top level, sales targets in place, revenue targets that you want to hit, and that you need to have those broken down into individual targets. So I'm going to continue on that theme. How do we bring those targets to life? How do we start with an overall financial target, and how do we make sure that we give life to it, both in capitalizing on the existing customers that we have and using the knowledge of our existing customers to go out and generate new business. Now, I will say before I start that the idea of these talks today are to be practical. You probably have noticed that rather than being kind of theoretical, we're trying to put a practical spin on the talks that you're getting. This morning was have a plan. Here are the elements inside a plan that that everybody can have. When we looked at Andy's session, it was very much let's follow this plan and let's see it through to completion. When we heard Alex's talk, it was very much that there are specific marketing elements that they engage with that give a return of investment. So from this talk, I'm trying to make it as practical as possible. And some of the topics you'll have seen already. All of you are experienced businesses. All of you are familiar with driving sales inside your organization. So this is not supposed to teach you stuff that you're already familiar with. It's just to remind you of some of the stuff that you should be doing inside your organization. And that if it slipped away from you, it's never too late to actually pull back some of these systems and process to make an effective sales channel. So try and take one nugget from every talk. Try and take one thing that you can take away and implement back in your business. Now, the first thing that I do in most sales talks, and it's a little bit unusual, I don't just dive into talking about the physical or the practical elements of building a sales plan. I talk about your company purpose. And it sounds a little bit abstract, and anytime I mention it, people go, that's just for big businesses. We all know that corporates are very good at putting a vision in place and to put a mission statement in place. And a lot of small businesses think, look, I don't need a vision statement, I don't need a mission statement. What good is that to me? I've seen this in so many organizations, and trust me, I've worked with businesses in every different part of the economy, loads of different sectors, and the ones that excel have a clear line of sight on what their business is all about. What is their company purpose? If their company is there to focus on the hospitality sector, they know that all the products and services that they offer are on purpose. So that means that the people who are selling these products know that they align with what the company wants to achieve. So it's a very good nugget for you to take away going, what is the purpose of my business? Do my staff fully understand what the purpose of my business is? And can I put that in a way that relates to them on a day-to-day basis so that in times they can come back and go, do you know what? I don't think we should be selling that product. I don't think we should be selling that service because it's not what the purpose of our business is. And that clarity can be hugely beneficial for a company. So if you haven't got a mission statement, or I equate it to a purpose statement, get yourself a purpose statement. This is what my company does. And use that when you're communicating with your customers. So sell on purpose. There's loads of different mission statements that you have. Microsoft's up there on top. Empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. So when they look at services that they want to push to the marketplace, they can use that going, will that product, will that service empower every organization to achieve more? I like the Walmart one. So you got a chance to look at the Walmart one? To give ordinary folk the chance to buy the same things as rich people. They're a very simple purpose. Walt Disney's, I also liked, I should have put it up as to let people have fun. Very simple mission statement. Now, they've changed it over the years to make it a little bit more corporate, but I like the original one. Our purpose is to make people have fun. So it was very, very simple. So now that I've kind of set the scene, have a good purpose, know what your company is about. That will help you sell better, okay? The idea of this talk is to talk about optimizing your sales operations. So I'm going to cover a couple of topics that reflect directly on creating a sales strategy and one that you can optimize. Now here's the thing. You start out at the start of every year thinking about what are we going to sell? What are the aspects of a good sales plan that I need to have? And I've something like 24 boxes up on the screen there. I won't look for a show of hands, but how many of you would be able to implement 24 different strategies around sales in your company over the next 12 months? It's a hard concept to get your head around, isn't it? There is a law of diminishing returns. The more that you try to achieve, the less you will actually be successful in. So rather than me talking about specific strategies, when I was asked to give this talk, I was going, what are the areas that you absolutely need to have as a cornerstone, as a pillar to build your sales organization? So what I'm going to be concentrating on are these 5 areas here. Customer segmentation, account management, new business development, sales process development, and then overall sales management. Now, I'm not saying that these topics over here are less important. During your normal business cycle, some of them will become critical for you, expanding into new markets, making sure your pricing strategy is right, tendering for large contracts, exporting. All of them are right for you, providing they suit the focus area that you have for your business. But these 5 areas, I think if you get them right, if you get the fundamentals of them right, you will have a very solid foundation to build an excellent sales force and do best-in-class sales practices. Okay. Now, when the first methodology that I always do, every time I go into a business and they say to me, Damien, I'd like to increase sales by 10%. Guess what my answer is? Any suggestions? I want to grow my business by 10%. What do you think my answer would be?
You need to put in 20% more.
Well, yeah, I'll always push them. But usually I'll say 10%, just put up your prices. Hike your prices. If you want just 10%, simple way to do it is just put up your prices. Yeah, you'll lose some customers, but you know what? Most customers are lazy. Something that you learn. And you yourselves are customers. Sometimes you just can't be bothered changing a service provider because it's easy and it's convenient. Does that sound familiar? So, you know, if you want 10%, just put up your prices. Chances are most of your customers will stay with you. But then I'll ask, you know, why just 10%? Why just 10%? Why not 20? Why not 30? Why not 40? Why not 50? Why not quadruple sales figures over the next couple of years? Like if you're going to think big. So we start off on this plan of if they want to get more than, let's say, 20, 30%, the first thing I'll do is, step 1, I'll do customer segmentation. Now I'm going to introduce you to a tool, a really expensive tool, one that every one of you should be using inside your business when it comes to segmentation. And it's always the first thing that I pull out of my bag when I walk into a business. Highlighter pen. Costs about maybe 40 cents. You get them in nice packs, €2 each, 4 colours. And by printing off a list of customers, and trust me, I've done this so many times where literally we've printed off a list of customers, taken out the highlighter pen and go, right, who's your top earning customer? Who's the one that's generated the most money for you in the last 12 months, last 24 months? And literally put a line through them. Great. Who's next? And literally we go down to the list till we make sure that we fully understand who are the top customers inside your organisation. Again, very simple step. Takes a half an hour. Do it at home, glass of wine. You'll be very interested in the results that you get. Next, I take out maybe a pink marker or a blue marker and I look at the next tier going, right, underneath these top tier ones, who else is generating revenue for your business? And eventually you have a nice coloured sheet that has all of your customers outlined in terms of revenue that they generate for you. And I then start putting them into tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4. I very seldom go beyond Tier 4, but it does happen occasionally depending on the size of the customer base that you have. Andy already mentioned this morning, that was one of the first things that he did. We physically, literally went through some of the customers to identify what revenue were being generated. We decided on what a Tier 1 customer looks like, what he smells like, where he hangs out. Do you want more of them? Is he a good customer? Does he cause you a lot of trouble, or is he easy to deal with? That's a Tier 1 customer. Let's put a badge on him and we know exactly what he looks like for future reference. And then we set up a pyramid. There's not a pyramid scheme now, by the way. I got kind of confused now, right? We set up a pyramid. So we start with Tier 4 going, right, Tier 4, the guys who are generating revenue for you, but it's not significant revenue. Now, I've put values 0 to 25 up as far as 125. You can make this relevant for your own business. So that could be 0 to 250 euros, 0 to 2,500, up to 12,500. Make it relevant. Could be 1.25 million for Tier 1s. But once you understand the value of your existing customer base. It starts getting you to think differently about your customers. Sometimes we get very complacent with our tier 1 customers. We build them well, they pay on time, they don't cause as much trouble, and sometimes when they come looking for stuff, we're so busy with the tier 3s and tier 4s that we don't always get around to them quickly enough. So sometimes we can actually be a little bit relaxed about our tier 1 customers by knowing who they are and physically making every effort inside the business to make sure that if a tier 1 customer calls, they get the attention that they need. So the recognition is extremely important of who your customers are. Now, when I do this the first time, I do it specifically on revenue. How much is each customer generating for you on an annual basis or on a multi-year basis? Yes, absolutely. Go on, absolutely.
When you say revenue, I'm just wondering, are you saying the profit that you make from a customer,
yeah,
or just
you can do
turnover?
You do it, again, depending on the company, I'll do it in 2 ways. I'll do first one in terms of revenue, overall generation of sales, and then we'll look at GP. Now, that's a really good question, because if you're in the technical area, you might see, and Andy mentioned this morning, that the services is much more lucrative than the actual hardware sale. You might be selling a big hardware block and make a 10% profit margin on it. But then you might sell services that is 70% on it. So these are quite lucrative. But you need a hardware sale to actually make the services sale afterwards. So they actually work symbiotically. So not to make it complicated, but you might actually have 2 of those. One for hardware sales, one for services sales. So I wouldn't be beyond actually doing that for an organization. But usually I try and stick to one pyramid that we're all familiar with who we're working towards. When I do the first pass on revenue, we make sure that we're happy with it. And then we look down through the pyramid and go, do you know what? Is there any customer in there that should be a tier 1 customer but isn't? Is he generating revenue of a tier 1 or a tier 3 customer? But you know what? I've got the feeling that if I look after him well and I strategically place him as a tier 1 client and treat him like a tier 1 client, he's going to start generating revenues like a tier 1 client. So on the first pass it's on revenue, on the second pass it's on strategic. I don't necessarily think that a tier 3 should be treated any differently if he has the potential to be a tier 1. So I'd put him into that bracket. So the second one would be on a strategic alignment on the tiering. So first step of your sales plan, customer segmentation. Again, if you haven't done it, one good nugget to take away from you, to do it immediately. Oh, the old 20 rule, you forgot about that. You've heard about that one, right? You know, 80% of your revenue coming from 20% of your clients, 80% of your problems coming from 20% of your clients. And they're usually the ones that don't pay on time, that are hassle, always with the awkward problems. You know, so the 80-20 rule kicks in here, and that pyramid really gives you an insight to who those customers are. And you know what it does? It tells you what customers you don't want. You know, they're the customers that when they come to you, you go, you know what, I can't service you, but I know a guy down the road, one of my competitors, he's going to really look after you. So you pass him over to one of your competitors. Being able to say no on sales opportunities can be as useful to you as being able to say yes. But that'll only come from when you fully understand your customer base. So do learn to say no. Again, Andy mentioned this morning that, you know, recognizing that it was hospitality focused, but trying to service all the other industries, be a general IT service provider, when 80-odd%, 86% of the revenue was coming from the hospitality sector. So by saying no to other opportunities coming in, allowed for a total refocus. So learn to say no, particularly when it comes to that 80-20 rule. Now, second step. Now that we've tiered all the clients or all our customers into revenue generating amounts and strategic value, now it's where we start looking at account management. Inside the system, if it's, again, a lot of you may or may not have a CRM system. Some will use Excel. I've seen the back of envelopes. I've seen every scenario where you have a low number of clients. You should put somebody's name against them internally inside your organization who are fully responsible for that customer, and the customer knows exactly who they are, that the account manager is specific to them. And when we talk about doing account management, I'm talking about doing account management right, not just a token name that you put against a client, that you account manage based on the value of the customer to you. So a tier 1 client is going to get a very good account manager that's going to look after him and try and make sure that he maintains the revenue profile of that tier 1 client. So the instructions or the purpose for the account manager there is to maintain and grow that tier 1 client. If it's a tier 2 client, the purpose could be, do you know what, I'm going to take that tier 2 client and I'm going to turn him into a tier 1 client by selling them additional services, because I know they need them. I know they may be buying them somewhere else, but they trust me as well. Why don't they buy them off me? And I've seen, and this is first-hand, that every time a business implements a proper account management system, the minimum growth they'll see is 20%. So if you want to see an increase in 10%, I said put up your prices. If you want to see a minimum of 20%, start doing account management. A funny story, I was doing a round table once with some business owners, and I was talking about account management, and I said it's like having a big red button on a wall, you know, press me for 20% increase in your bottom line. Go ahead and press it. And one of the MDs put up his hand and he goes, you know what, I'd love to press that button. He says, but I'm too busy doing everything else. I don't have time to press it. And that's a reality. You're so busy doing all the other 24 different sales strategies. Sometimes the most obvious ones can be the most beneficial for you. So that if you're looking to do one particular sales focus this year and you want approximately a 20% growth, look at your account management systems. And I'll go on to elaborate on those. Here we have account management. Here we have a tier 4. Got our highlighter pen and we said out of all the tier 4s that we have, I'm identifying these 3 that should be growing into a tier 3 client. Simple as that. Being very focused and direct in terms of identifying a customer inside your portfolio going, do you know what? Those 3 customers should be spending more with me. Go into your account manager and go, right, let's look at a strategy to sell more in. And again, I refer back to Andy's slide where he put the X in each one of the maintenance, services, product 1, product 2, and put a red X beside the one. Well, they're not buying that, they're not buying that. So there's a sales plan that we have for going into that specific tier client. And you do the same with tier 3 to tier 2 and tier 2 to tier 1. And sometimes this is an easy way of actually setting sales targets. So rather than putting a nominal value on your total sales targets for an account manager or for one of your business development execs, you might say, do you know what? I need you to grow revenue through these tier 2 clients to become tier 1. There's the threshold. There's where they are right now. We have it print out. We've highlighted. Let's set the target for next year to bring them into a tier 1. How do we go about that? Again, that's very focused thinking in terms of making your sales account management process systematic in terms of developing business. Plan account management tier by tier. Sounds like it's really a painful work, but again, it's not. You know these customers, they're your customers. You know what they want, you know their pain points. You know how you've got them in the first place. You know what they like to hear, you know the mediums they like to hear it in. Just go back to them and reassure them. You're already in a trusted position. And remember I said, they're lazy. They don't actually want to move from you. And you know what, if you can sell them more solutions, all the better, because they don't have to be dealing with somebody else. So make it easy for them to deal with you. And account management does that. You can be very systematic in how you roll it out. How many face-to-face visits will I have with a tier 1 client this year? What's the right amount? And you can set targets on it. I want you as an account manager to make sure that you've done 4 face-to-face visits with your tier 1 client over the year. So every quarter, I want you touching base face-to-face with your tier 1 client. Now that might be too much, it might be too little. Again, you know your customers better, so you set up the plan that's appropriate for the level of interaction that you want. How many emails will they get? Will they get all our newsletters? Will we over-communicate? Will we send all our newsletters to them or emails to them? Maybe they get one every 2 months. How many phone calls should we give them to talk about new innovations or new products or new services? Again, it's just been focused on a tier-by-tier level from an account management perspective as to how, I suppose, focused you can be as an organisation in terms of developing those sales. And I think the number is that it's 12 times easier to sell a service to an existing customer than it is to a new business. Have you heard something like that before? I think the number is 12. So your customer base is there. They are willing to buy from you. And you know, we're here in Microsoft today. They've got a whole suite of products and services that could be beneficial and useful for your customer base. Why not use those as being the footprint for going in and selling more to your existing clients?
Sorry, I was just going to ask on the first one, face-to-face.
Yeah.
Is that still applicable in the world of cloud?
Yeah, again, when we spoke about cloud earlier on, we looked at it from a marketing perspective, being able to communicate to many people. Business is still face-to-face. You know, you're still selling to somebody that you know very well. They do want to look across the table and look you in the eyes and see exactly what you're selling. And it becomes more and more important as the relationship grows. They do want to see you, they do want the reassurance. And if you're in that trusted position, there's no better way to maintain that trust rather than sitting across the table or having a coffee with somebody or dropping in to see them as you're passing by. And there are simple things. You know, we're all on the road a lot. I know I do be on the road a lot. I love, you know, going to a particular region going, who else do I know in my client base that I haven't seen in a while that I'd like to drop in, give them a phone call, and if they're, you know, tier 1, tier 2 client, I'll make sure that I drop in and see them. You can't beat face to face. But this is not just a drop-in call. If you're doing account management, you need a systematic way of going about it. So when you're doing account management, you're asking questions like, is everything that we're doing okay? Did the last product or service that I sell you, did that work out fine? Is there anything else that you need? And by the way, do you know that we also sell this product or service to other customers that are in the exact same sector as you? Have you tried it? Would you like a trial? So account management gets very systematic when you do it that way. You almost have a template, a process, a system. Again, I'll refer back to Andy. Everybody has the same presentation going in. Everybody's singing off the same hymn sheet. Account management needs to be that specific. Yes, you can go off script, but 60% of it should be scripted out in terms of what you should cover, what products you should be pushing to them. And if you've done your matrix right at the start going, they have this, they don't have these, the account management visits should be very much focused on, can I introduce you to these other products or services that we have that I know you need? Give me the opportunity to sell them to you. Okay, so that's account management. New business development. And we all talk about new business development, how important it is. Let's continually get new customers in. Lifeblood of every organization is not to be dependent on all the customers that you have. It's continually adding more customers to that pyramid. Because once you get them in the pyramid, then you can concentrate on account management and growing them up. So let's get them in. Now, I mentioned before that once you've done your customer segmentation and you've identified exactly what a good customer looks like, why not just go after more of them? Focus on your tier 1 and your tier 2 clients as being the ones that you really want to win. Like sometimes they'll come in as tier 3 and tier 4 and give you the opportunity to grow them. But selling is time consuming. Why would you spend time going after tier 3 and tier 4 clients when you can spend the exact same amount of time going after tier 1 and tier 2 clients? And now that you know what your existing customers look like and you know how good they are to your organization, you know how much revenue they are, you can be very focused on what prospects to pinpoint. What initiatives do I go to them with? Again, this morning we heard Andy saying that his ideal customer was in the hospitality space and the ideal person to talk to was a revenue manager. Everything was geared towards the revenue manager, their sponsorship model, their communications model towards the revenue manager. Alex was talking about HR professionals within the IT industry. So I'm a techie, I don't want to talk to techies. Do you know what? The people who are buying this are the HR professionals. So let's be focused towards the HR professionals. Because you know from your existing customers who you should be talking to. Use that when you're developing your sales plan for developing new business. You don't have to start from scratch. Look internally first. Maximize your existing revenue and then use that as the template or the blueprint for going to win new customers. And as I said on the last line there, you can identify the customers that you don't want. The ones that you send down the road to your competitors. Now, this is where when I do this, people start to switch off. They go, oh no, not another sales pipeline graphic. Oh, I've seen that all the time. Again, a little anecdote. I do it quite regularly. I say to people when I have them around a table, how many of you have got a good sales process? And usually everybody puts up their hand. We've all got a sales process. And then I ask them to show it to me. And if I have 10 people in the room, I guarantee you less than 3 of them will be able to actually pull out and show me the specific sales process that they follow, which is broken down on a step-by-step basis with the backup of what you do in every stage, the particular call to actions, the topics that you need to cover, and how you move people from one stage of the sales funnel to the other. That's what a sales process is. It's a systematic way of selling. And it guarantees you that if you have it in place, all of your sales organization will be following the exact same methodology. So if it's successful for one, it'll be successful for all. So again, if you don't have a good sales process, this is a really good place to start. I have a very simple one here. Initial contact, appointments, quotes, and close. 4 steps. Again, you can make it as complicated as you want. You can add as many steps as you need that's relevant to your business, but don't overcomplicate it too much, because you need to be able to track everything that's going on inside this funnel, and I'll explain why in a little bit later. Now, this is where we go back to the plan from this morning, where we spoke about having your financial targets and a line-by-line level on the products or services that you want to sell. 80% of good selling is a good process. The rest is setting targets and motivation to make that happen. So 80% is a good sales process. And again, we have a little bit of a disadvantage being Irish. Like we do kind of travel on the gift of the gab at times, and we use our personalities to sell, and all that is really good for doing relationship building. But not everybody can sell as effectively inside your organization. So you need to be systematic. You need to take the best practices from who's selling well and get that incorporated to the other people inside your organization who need help and support and development. So let's walk through the sales process. We heard from Alex's talk, know the marketing tool that is most effective for you. And you might even go as saying, I want to know what's most effective for me per tier. Initial contact is really about the customers knowing exactly who you are and what you're trying to sell them. And if they're interested enough, then they'll go the next stage in saying, I want to get in contact with you. Again, we'll refer back to Andy. So this morning sent out an email blast, 27% opening rate. 27% opening rate. And sometimes when I get clients to do this, we look for clients who's opened it multiple times. And if they've opened it more than 5 times, that's your sales lead. That's enough to actually make a call. So again, using the tools that you have available as part of your sales process to act as the template for doing sales systematically inside your business. Sometimes when I'm teaching sales courses, I ask people about the different marketing techniques that they have. The last class that I ran like this, it was just again, I was just doing an open seminar, and I asked people in the audience going, how many marketing techniques can we come up with? And I set them a challenge. People love challenges. So the last class came up with 25 different marketing techniques. Can you do better? They came up with 33 different marketing techniques that you can implement inside your business. Same question, can all of you implement 33 different marketing initiatives? No, you can't. What you can do is you can do a handful really, really well. If it's email marketing, that's fine. If that works for you, still very effective. If it's social media marketing, do it really, really well. If it's events, webinars, find the medium that works for you and gets your message across and stick to it. Don't try to be an expert in every other marketing initiative. Find the ones that work for your products, find the ones that work for your customers, and do it. And you do have to do the ones that don't work sometimes to find out that they don't work. You mentioned going to a conference where very expensive, but did it give the return of investment that you wanted? It didn't, but sometimes you have to do that kind of A/B testing to see what does and doesn't work. So that's the initial contact. Know what marketing tool works for you and implement. Now, when we get to the appointment stage, so we've sent out, we've done a webinar, we've got feedback in that we really like what we saw presented, we like that product that you told us about, tell me a little bit more about it. The call to action here is try and get in front of them. Yes, it's nice when you can do that selling remotely, but again, if you can get in front of them and eyeball them in some cases, it certainly helps the sales process along. And when you do get the opportunity to get that appointment, have a list of the questions that you need to ask. Know exactly what you need to ask. You've already understood, you've gone to the effort of pinpointing them from a marketing perspective. You know they're a revenue manager, you know they're a HR manager. Ask them about their pain points. Be specific in those questions. And again, have uniformity in your sales staff that they ask similar questions. And again, if they come up with better ones, brilliant, but work it into the process, work it into the template. And have a list of the areas that you want to cover. And each one of those steps have a call to action. And again, this is kind of sales 101. The call to action is trying to get the people, your customers, your potential, or your prospects from one step to the next. In the initial contact stage is to get into appointment stage. Whether it's face-to-face or virtual, you're trying to get into the appointment stage. I had a scenario here where I was working with a medical technology company, and they had an extra step in here. They had an assessment step before the appointment. So they would go in and do an assessment, or an audit if you want to call it. And then they would set an appointment to do the sales visit. The MD had a conversion rate of 86% from the assessment or the audit stage to the appointment stage. When we analysed, he had 6 staff, when we analysed the conversion rates of his 6 staff, the average conversion rate was 38%. So MD was getting 80 odd percent, 86%, staff were getting 38%. Now, there's something wrong here. The MD has proven that you can actually do it. Now, it's very hard to sell like the MD. There's no doubt about it. He's the one that founded the company. He's the one that's driving the business, understands the product, knows the customers, probably has the network that supports his sales. So it's very hard to meet the MD level. Andy said he's now getting back into sales to drive that business. That's there for a specific reason. However, we implemented a buddy system where the MD worked with each one of his sales executives over a 3-month period. And we brought the conversion rate for the executives from 38% up to 72% in 3 months. Just by going, here's the questions you should be asking. Here's how you present this demo in the most effective way. Here's the things that you have to cover. So again, not rocket science. The competence is inside the organization. You're just trying to do it consistently. And then the call to action from the appointment. As I said, be it virtual or be it face-to-face, is to get that quote in place. Get that quote out to them. You've listened to their pain points. You've gone through the topics that you know you can service them with. Put that quote together which answers that query. Don't try and oversell at this stage. Because remember later, if you get them as a customer, account management will do that for you. Sell them what they need. When it comes to quoting, I like the companies that I work with, I like to get them to standardize how they do their quote. And almost 50-60% of it is already standardized. The rest, the other 40%, will come from the initial sales meeting. That expedites how quickly the quote can be turned around, and it makes it look very professional, that you're not doing it on the fly all the time, trying to start from scratch. Agree a time to have the proposal sent and meet that timeline. And for God's sake, follow up. It always amazes me when I talk to people and they tell you how busy they are chasing new business. Walking people down through the sales funnel, doing the marketing to get people into the sales funnel in the first place, doing the appointments to actually get in front of them to say what you can sell them, doing the quote to tell them what they should be buying off you. And then they move on to the next guy and do the exact same thing and bring another person right down through the sales funnel. And by the time they got back to the original guy that they've got the quote out to, it's too late. He's already bought from somebody else, or you were meant to follow up. We're all guilty of that. We've all done it where we've allowed time to slip. We've brought people right to the brink and then forgot about them. So don't forget to follow up. Use your sales funnel as a methodology for following up. Now, sales is about figures, figures, and figures. You mentioned the financial already, to have those financial figures in place. Have those targets set on a product and a service basis. Now, this is where it gets very mechanical inside your sales process. If you know how many newsletters you're sending out, you know how many people you're getting in a webinar, you're able to track them right through the sales process to see how you convert them from being a lead or a prospect right down to getting that closed sale. You need to know the qualitative and quantitative information that's happening inside your sales funnel. Because at the end result, if you put 1,000 in here and you get a 10 out here, you know your conversion rate is 1 in 100. And if you've got your sales process optimized, if you want to get 20 business, you double the amount you put in. That's fact. Or the alternative is you fix what's going on inside the funnel. I mentioned that medical technology company specifically because they had a huge amount of leakage from their sales process. So when we analysed the data, we were able to see exactly where they weren't optimized. And by changing the methodology they had, we were able to actually farm much better inside the sales funnel than by having to put more in. So there's 2 methods: put more in, or fix what you have in there, or maximize what you have in there. Absolutely have a good CRM system. Again, whether it be Microsoft Dynamics or something that's customized for you, have a good CRM system. All good CRM systems will do two things. They'll do contact management and Salesforce automation. They'll do loads of other wonderful stuff and integrating into different systems. But a good CRM system, you need those two factors. Contact management. So you know who your customers are, you know their details, phone numbers, websites, who runs what departments, etc. Little notes about them. You know, they're a Man United supporter maybe, and then you can say Marino, Pogba, Ibra, and you're still losing. What's going on? At least you can start the conversations. By having contact management means that you can actually, I suppose, maintain the intelligence on customers inside your organizations, that you don't lose it. So contact management is hugely important. Salesforce automation is where you start doing the qualitative and quantitative analysis on the numbers inside your system. How many people have you got appointments with? What's the total value of those appointments? How many people are at quotation stage? What's the total value of those quotations? How many we are converting from one stage to the next? And how many are we bringing right through the sales funnel to the closed sale? Those numbers allow you to be very specific in terms of how you systematically improve sales numbers inside your organizations. It's mechanical. It's data. But it's data that you can use specifically to maximize your sales and your marketing efforts. Now, the last thing. So we've covered customer segmentation, we've looked at account management, we've looked at business development, we've looked at the sales process. But all that is no good if we don't manage it. So we need good sales management systems and sales processes. Again, I think we all probably had mentors at some stage. Again, Andy, I know you mentioned a boss that you previously had. I go back to a boss that I had, and this was his motto: what gets measured gets done. Simple as that. Anytime I spoke about a new initiative, you're going, right, what's the targets on it? Is there a specific goal around it? I wasn't too interested, total autonomy in terms of how I achieved it, but what are you trying to achieve? What's the target? What gets measured gets done. When you're looking at your sales force, you need the top level, your company, go back to your company purpose, go back to your targets for your company. You need to know what those numbers are. You need to know how they're relevant to each of your individual sales staff so that you can get specific targets, both from a business development perspective and from an account management perspective. So set targets, and genuinely set targets. Now, I'm not saying that you turn into an absolute, so focused that it's all about the numbers, let's forget about the customer. But you have to have something that you're aiming for. You have to have something that you talk to your sales executive or your key account manager or your sales director and say, we need those numbers to be able to continue doing what we're doing. I'll work with you to make those happen. Those numbers need to be living and breathing numbers. You need to take those numbers, review them weekly, year on year. Remember that at the very start we talked about the trends that start to fall off? That's where you start seeing those live numbers coming in and going, that product or service, you know what? It's tailing off, it's starting to fall off, we need something to replace it. Being that analytic in terms of your sales targets allow you to make those conscious decisions about where you're going to focus. Know your trends. Have regular sales meetings. And this is where you have to be really focused on the numbers and have an agenda set. I've regularly come into organizations to help them develop their best-in-class sales service. And you're kind of asking the guys, I'll give you one specific example. A company turning over a little over 15 million, decent turnover business. They had 8 sales executives. And I sat in for the first sales meeting, which went on for 3.5 hours. And as far as I could see, they discussed nothing about targets. When I asked each of the individuals, what were your sales targets? None of them knew. Now that's the old way of selling, totally reactive, and we'll see where we are at the end of the year. But knowing what your targets are and focusing on them and having them as part of your agenda allows you to make sure that you get it right when it comes to selling effectively. Use a reporting tool, a CRM-based reporting tool. Review your sales lead times. Absolutely analyze your conversion rates. And talk openly about sales development inside your organization. Like Alex mentioned that marketing was a team effort, so is sales. Everybody in your organization is a member of your sales team and you should be treated as such. Your engineers going on site should be trained to spot opportunities and bring them back to your sales staff. They could be and sometimes can be your best salespeople. And performance manage. Make sure that you give the feedback, the affirmation when people are doing well. well done, you hit your targets this month, you've overachieved, or you're there or thereabouts, but I know you're going to get it by the end of the year, or do you know what, we need to put a plan in place because this area is not being achieved. How can we help you get to that get to that specific number? Give feedback and work as a team. So now you have it. They're the key aspects. And again, as I said to you, there's so many other different areas that you can concentrate on. But if you get those 5 things right, I guarantee you, you will have an effective and systematic way of doing sales inside your business. Thank you.
Thanks, Damien. Damien will be actually working with us throughout this fiscal in various sessions and content as well, so we look forward to that. Does anyone have a particular question for Damien? We have time for one question.
Hi, Damien. I thought your talk was absolutely super, and certainly for me, I took a whole lot of things from it.
Thank you.
I'm interested in what it's like for you in your business. I guess we're all used to standing up in front of existing customers and potential customers and telling them what they should be doing according to what our particular expertise is. The reality is, I suppose, for most of us as working in a business, we find that the things that we're good at telling customers to do, we're not actually so good at doing them ourselves. So if it comes to implementing the systems that we recommend to our customers, sometimes we're just not that good at it internally. What's your experience with your area of expertise around sales?
You're absolutely right. We are all very good at telling somebody else what they should be doing and how to do it better. It's no doubt about it. And we all suffer from cobbler's shoes, you know, where we know what the solutions are and we have the solutions at our disposal, but we don't apply them to ourselves. I mentioned this morning that, and I mentioned at the start of this talk, about people inside your organisation being totally familiar with what you're trying to achieve. And if I was to say one thing to you, that's really important, that if you're setting out your stall at the start of the year that we're going to achieve something, whatever it is, whether it be a financial figure, whether it be an achievement, whether it be a certification, you get your staff involved and you communicate it effectively. And that you try and make everybody understand what their role is in making that happen. It's engagement, it's communication. And yes, you do have to work at it, because sometimes you assume that because you know, everybody else does. And what can happen, and I've seen it in so many different organisations, is that the board or the owner-manager or the board of directors will set a target and have expectations of this. But what's communicated to the staff is here. And suddenly there's a complete disconnect between what people are delivering versus what's required of them, and there's no alignment. And by simply getting people on board at a very early stage and saying, this is what we want as a company, this is where we want to go, this is how we're going to do it, and this is your role in it, can bring that into a level playing field. But again, you do need to work at it, and you do that through regular communications, whether it be it visual. Andy mentioned Yammer, just to keep everybody updated. But people do crave knowledge, and they want to know what's going on. If you keep people inside your own organisation in the dark, they're more likely to be disengaged, and that's not a happy workforce. So the one tip I would say is communicate. Let people know how they're going to be involved in helping you move forward.